What if I told you there was a way to eliminate up to 20 to 40 hours from your work week, and that I'd use this on a daily basis to help my clients achieve exactly that using a simple app that's free on your phone? Stick around, I'm going to talk to you about Toggl Track. What's up, fam? I'm your host, CMH, founder of StartupU. StartupU is an interactive learning space for online business owners. Before we get started, make sure you like this video, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and drop me a comment below. Let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so I have talked about this at length, and you maybe have watched my videos in the past, and I highly recommend. I'm going to be talking about a lot of different tools in today's video, all of which we've talked about in this productivity series. So when you're done, I recommend going back to my full focus planner video and checking that out, because I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about Trello. I'm going to be talking about the Toggl Track app, kind of how I use all of them together. And you can choose to use these long-term or just use them short-term to derive some of these meaningful data points that I want you to use to help you keep track of your time. So you're not working 80, 90 hours a week and you're like, where did my time go? Right? That happened to me. It happens to a lot of my clients. And so I'm going to show you how I use these various tools to my benefit versus losing my time and then figuring out what the heck happened. Okay. So the first thing is this, and we talked about this in the full focus planner video. What I like to do when I'm figuring out my day is I like to take everything that needs to be done, right? I figure out my daily big three, my most important things, AKA the one thing from the book Gary Keller, right? Make sure that I'm focusing on the things that are going to actually make me money. And I write those things down first, and then I write down other tasks, right? These could be, again, I talked about it in the full focus planner video, so it goes more in depth there if you want to check that video out. But other things, right? Going to the gym, reading, other tasks, sending an email to my newsletter list, etc. What I then want to do is I break hour by hour blocks, right? So when am I going to work on these things, right? When am I going to make time for those specific tasks to get done? So I block out, an hour or 30 minutes or whatever blocks throughout my day. And what I come to find is that using this, which is known as Parkinson's law, which states that your work will expand to fit the time that you allow for it. When you do that, when you actually block out your hours and the tasks you're going to do in those hour blocks or in those 30-minute windows, what you end up finding is that you're going to get far more done in the time that you allow for it, simply because you've actually wrote those things down versus having a blank canvas and just saying, well, I'll just work on whenever I get to it. However, here's the problem. A lot of people, and this is why this extra little wrinkle is necessary. A lot of people, what they end up doing is they don't know how much time they should allocate for these various tasks that they wrote down. Like, why did Chris discern that he needs an hour for said task? Well, here's how. I use Toggl, and I'm going to show you guys what I prefer, which is the web app or the mobile app version versus the web interface. But I'll show you a little bit of both, and I'll show you exactly what you can glean from either one of those and kind of how I use them both. But again, primarily speaking, I would use the app because I think it's just way more user-friendly, and I think it's going to be easier for you to use on the fly. I know that kind of goes against a lot of what I normally say, which is to stay off your phone because it's a distraction. It takes you out of flow and all those various things. However, I will say this. It's very important that you are making it as user-friendly as possible, and I don't feel like the web version is as user-friendly. So let me go ahead and show you this. I've got my app pulled up here, and what you'll see is just a basic list of things that I'm working on today, yesterday, and then all of them have underneath some little bullet point that says whether it was a personal task, a one-thing task, basically all various forms of projects is what it's called on the app. How you dedicate, what this is going to go under. Okay. So this doesn't look like much. Okay, well, you recorded these times here. Basically how you record is you're just gonna hit this button, this play button down here in the bottom right-hand corner, and you're gonna say, okay, what is this? What are you working on? So I'll say, recording video for YouTube, right? And I'm gonna hit the check. Okay, awesome. Now it is officially recording right now, right? You can see that as it indicates below, the timer is running, right? So I'm recording this video. So if I wanna gauge how much time I'm really spending on YouTube, to go back and overlay that on my full focus planner to see if I'm actually fitting in those time blocks that I've allocated for myself as a testing mechanism, then I'm doing that right now, right? So when you're done with that task, you're gonna hit the stop button. What I actually should have done, and I didn't do at the time, is go here and make sure that we dedicate that to a project. So you're gonna hit add to project. If you have a project already, which I do, you'll see YouTube. So we'll confirm the change, we'll add that to the project. So that's gonna tell you, okay, this needs to be categorized under a specific project so that I can go back and see how much time I'm spending in various areas of my life and in my business. So that was a part that I didn't add, but I definitely want to make sure that we covered that. Okay, now what I really like, and this is where it's going to be really effective for you, is if you go into this middle button here, which is your calendar view. So this was my day yesterday. I did this was my actual day yesterday. What you can see is an actual hour by hour breakdown of how long things took, and then the labels therein, right? So you can see responded team on Slack and Trello, had breakfast, team meeting, guest interview. I did a guest spot on somebody else's podcast, phone call, recorded a podcast with someone else, build my email sequence, focus on my webinar training, et cetera, right? And at the end, I watched TV and went to the groceries, right? And went to the gym. So the latter part of my day were all personal activities. Now, here's what's interesting, right? You can see that my day was pretty full, and that's not uncommon for me. That's a pretty typical day. However, what I can do is, like I mentioned before, I can go back to my focus planner and say, okay, here's what I aimed to do. Here was my plan. Did it work that way, right? And then more importantly, were there tasks that actually took longer than what I had allocated and planned for? And then in the future, next time, I know I need to allocate an hour and a half, not an hour for that task, because according to this day, or according to the data that I'm finding, it's actually taking longer than what we thought. And then more importantly, what else is going on in my life that I can allocate less time to compensate for the fact that this task is now taking longer than what I anticipated that it would, right? So we can find that out by going to the insights, and this is really powerful stuff here. So you'll see, as I scroll here, you'll see there's a pie chart, but also then you'll see, I don't even know if that's called a pie chart, but for lack of a better term, your pie chart here. But you also see your various projects as it relates to the percentage of time you spent in addition to the bulk time spent on those. Now, this is only a day and a half worth of this week, so this might be a little bit off. You can change it, from this week to however time frame you want, today, yesterday, or you can do whatever date range that you want to do. But for this week, as it stands currently, what I'm noticing, what stands out to me immediately is I'm spending a lot of time on personal stuff this week, right? And if I go back and see, okay, where is that time actually happening? What you can see here is groceries and TV. So I watched TV for 2 hours, watching Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai never dies. And I did groceries, right? So that took a couple hours because we go to multiple grocery stores. What we found, this is interesting, what my wife and I discovered is that we actually started using Instacart, because what we found is that number was constantly too high. So we were seeing we were spending the majority of our time, almost 40% of our time, on personal activities, and just eliminating the grocery aspect, we were able to cut that down like in half. That makes a big difference, but you don't know that, right, unless you're actually tracking your time. Okay, now let's talk about how it's going to impact your business, right? So quickly, I'm going to show you the web version here, but basically it's the same general gist of things here. You can filter by team, client, project, tag, description. You can also go to your summary. You can go to detailed, weekly, etc. It's basically the same thing. I just think it's more user friendly. And then if you wanted to do your timer on the web version, you just do the same thing here. You type on what it is that you're working on, and then you would go to hit record, right? And then you pick your various project if you want to associate it with a certain project and hit play, right? You have your list view here, and you can go. It's the same thing. It's just a little bit not as user-friendly as I'd like it to be. Now, here's where it really is effective and where I really benefit from it. And this is what I told you about, how I can help people cut 20 to 40 hours. Clients of mine that are busy working 80, 90 hours a week, I can get them down to 40 to 50 just like this. And the reason being is this. So this is actually a board from one of my paid programs. I teach people how to use this, called the PAID process. It stands for prioritize, automate, delegate, eliminate. Okay, so it's a process that you should work through as a business owner to make sure that you are going through a mechanism that prevents you from losing your time and also delegating things in an appropriate manner. So I won't get too much into the nuance of that. Just know that that's what it stands for: prioritize, automate, delegate, eliminate. So the first one let's talk about is prioritize. All right, so you're gonna write down a list of all the things you do on your Trello board here, in addition to the time that is associated with that, right? So if we look at this one here, optimize ad campaigns, right? So 6 hours is what you're spending weekly on that, as you think, okay? Now, here's the problem when I go through with clients is they don't know. They don't know how much time they're spending on this on a weekly basis. They're just doing it. So they're doing a lot of things. And oftentimes what you see is under their prioritized list, they don't even have that. They just have a list of things that I do, and it's usually 1.5 miles long. And no wonder, because as your business grows, the functions and tasks, it's a never-ending list, and it continues to expand as your business grows, right? Before we move any further, make sure you guys like and subscribe to this channel. So what you're going to want to do is, as you go through and use Toggl Track to put in the actual time that it takes you. So if you think it takes you 6 hours, and then Toggl actually says it's taking 9, well, guess what? You just in that one task had 3 more hours of actuality than what you had anticipated out of your guesstimate, right? So what you'll do is you'll look and see, wow, you'll add all these up when you're done. Oh my gosh, I'm spending a lot of time doing these specific tasks, right? So what I have them do is say, okay, first let's move things over and say, what's a priority, right? Like, what are the things that only you can do in the business, okay? So usually they'll drag some things over and it ends up being about 20 things. And then we'll say, okay, then what can we automate and what can we delegate? What's the budget for delegation? And then what needs to be eliminated just for now? Not forever, just for now. But focusing on the priority list here, the prioritized list, we'll go through, we'll use Toggl, we'll go through, spend a week, right? Maybe 2. And I want you to time every single thing you do of this priority list and see what's the actual time that it's taking you to do these things, okay? And the reason being is this. Oftentimes what we find is that we're not really using the tools to our best benefit, right? Maybe we're not using a full focus planner, so we're just working on things as they come. Or maybe we really overestimated how much time we actually had to take on this new task. And what we often find is that a priority kind of slips to the side. We say, you know, this needs to be eliminated for now because I just don't have time, and it's not what should be a primary focus for me in this season of my business. But the problem is that if you don't have a mechanism, if you're not using something like Toggl, you won't be able to disseminate and discern what is the actual amount of time that I'm spending. Now, you can create a board that's similar to this, or you can buy my Unstuck formula program, which gives you access to this in addition to all the content that we talk about inside that program. You can check that link out below. But I definitely recommend having something like that in your specific Rolodex of tools that you use in order to protect you from losing time in your day. Now, one last thing I want to talk to you guys about as you go is that if you do want to go back and add things retroactively, there is a manual option, so you can click on one of your tasks here and go back and make any edits or adjustments as you wish. I don't use tags. I know you have a tags option here. I'm not even entirely sure what it's for because, again, I've never used it. However, one thing you can do is if you say, you know, this actually took me longer, I need to go back. So you can actually just quickly do this and just drag it and say, it took an hour, right? And so you just quickly do that, make that change. You can change the date, you can change the project, what have you. Very, very easy to do so. The other thing you can do is if, let's say you want to split something into 2 segments, right? So let's say you emailed 2 different newsletters, right? So you sent one to your customers and you sent one to your prospective customers. You can actually look at both of those events to look at them cumulatively. So you just hit the little button here that shows the numerical value of how many times, how many segments you dedicated to that. And then you can pull up each one of those individually. You could set a name appropriately for each one of those. Hope you guys liked this video. Hope it was tremendously beneficial for you. Again, I do not use this on an ongoing basis. I just use it when I'm taking on new assignments or new tasks, or if I feel like I'm kind of slipping with my workday and I'm not being as productive as I'd like to be, I kind of delve back into this. However, one of the things that I kind of found was that tracking my day all the time, every single week, was a little bit of a nuisance. So I do it maybe periodically, just kind of when I feel like things are slipping or when I feel like I'm not getting things done to the degree that I wish that I would be doing. All right, guys, again, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell for notifications, and continue to follow this productivity series. We've got a couple more videos for you in this series, and then we're going to move on to talking about starting your YouTube channel in the next series that we're going to do for you guys. So I will see you in the next one.